It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. We're just 8 days away from it being all over. All this election talk, you'll never have to hear about it again. Who are we kidding? As soon as November 6th starts, we'll start talking about 2026. But maybe it won't be such at the forefront where it's occupying every waking minute of your day. Speaking of which, on election night, John Phillips and I are going to be broadcasting live right here from 7 to 10 p.m., and it's going to be simulcast on our sister station, 560 KSFO in San Francisco, and parts of it are also going to air on KMJ in Fresno. So that's pretty cool. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Of course, I'll be here on election day, noon to 3 with John, then 5 to 6 here, and then 7 to 10. So I'm going to have a long day. But it's okay. Once we get to late November, everyone's checked out. So we just gotta get through this last mile. As we go through, again, there are so many things on the ballot. Everyone's paying attention to the presidential race, but there's so many down ballot races that are worth your attention that if you haven't voted yet, you still have time to make up your decision. So we've been talking to some of the candidates. One candidate we talked to a few weeks ago, we're bringing back. He is running for District 30 in California for Congress. That is the seat that Adam Schiff is leaving so he can become the next senator. You would expect me to say because he's running for Senate, but he will beat Steve Garvey by 30 points. Steve Garvey is not campaigning. So that seat is open. And it is Assemblywoman Laura Friedman versus Dr. Alex Balekian. Dr. Alex Balekian joins us on the News Blitz. Dr. Alex Balekian, welcome back to the show. Hello? Doctor?
Randy, can you hear me?
There he is. All right, you're on the air. Howdy.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. I apologize about the connectivity issues.
All good. You know, I'm working from home, so sometimes I don't know if it's the phone wasn't connecting, you were on mute, or all of a sudden I got myself knocked off the air.
But we're back. Yes, and again, like I said, I appreciate you having me back on.
So we have heard quite a bit about you from your last appearance on the show. This is an open seat because Adam Schiff is moving on to the Senate. There are a lot of people who maybe have never heard of your opponent, Laura Friedman, because every member of the assembly operates practically anonymously. I barely know who my assembly people are. So what can you tell us about Laura Friedman as somebody who has been representing the place you live in the assembly and as the former mayor of Glendale?
I mean, I can't say anything about Laura Friedman personally because I don't know her, but what I can tell people is the laws that she votes for and that she authors. Her biggest rallying cry is for the climate. However, she and her climate cartel have been passing more and more environmental regulations that have been directly leading to high energy bills that people in Glendale, Burbank, and across state have been paying. And so she has voted not only for environmental regulations that have worsened our electricity bills, she has also taken it upon herself to take out lanes of traffic on busy thoroughfares throughout the state and put in quick-build bike lanes that people are not liking, anywhere from Glendale to Culver City to Hollywood and West Hollywood. Between her climate cartel moves and also the parking lanes, she has inflicted a lot of pain upon people.
You know what is wild is we're actually seeing in Culver City now, the city removing some of these bike lanes because nobody was using them. And that's in a, quote, transit dense area.
Right. Her last bill that she introduced, AB 2290, will mandate bicycle lanes in every single assembly district in the state. Will not only mandate it, but will also make it a quick build, meaning that it will bypass the customary public comment period. And rather than imagining it in your mind's eye, the city will simply build it, and then you can see what it's like. And then they say within 1 to 5 years, they'll get feedback, and they'll just go ahead and keep it or change it. The problem is, from a public safety standpoint, again, I'm a physician, One large factor that they're not taking into consideration is emergency response times. And especially on Hollywood Boulevard, if you've seen, the ambulances and fire trucks cannot get through in timely fashion. And so I don't think it's safe from a public health standpoint to wait 1 to 5 years if people with strokes, heart attacks are not getting timely care. And then you're just waiting for people to die before you actually, review those results after a year or two. So there are a lot of reasons, not just the convenience of being able to get to work or working, but from a public health standpoint and having your stroke or your heart attack treated, in timely fashion. There are a lot of reasons why her one-sided bills are not good for the community.
Well, and on top of the first responder aspect, which is very top of mind for when you completely change how these roads were built, the people that use those major thoroughfares, let's say, for example, if they put one on Brand Boulevard in Glendale, well, there are a lot of people who will get so impatient from the added traffic that now they're going onto the side streets, now they're going into the neighborhoods, and that can be even more dangerous because that's where people are walking their dogs, people are playing with their kids.
Precisely, and this is her uncalculated risk. So the best part of this is dislike of the bicycle lanes. And when I say dislike, I'm not against bicycle lanes. I'm all for low control to determine where those bicycle lanes go in your neighborhood, not some elected official all the way from Sacramento or Washington, D.C. telling you where you need to put them. So this bicycle lane saga has actually had bipartisan support. And so we're getting a lot of upset Democrats who, when they find out that this Laura Friedman person that they never knew, but for whom they were going to vote blindly because she had a D next to her name, when they find out that she's the bike lane lady that is responsible for their increased congestion, that is responsible for taking away their parking spaces so they have to circle to find them, then they said, oh, God, I am not going to vote for this person. And we're getting a lot of people who are voting a split ticket where they vote Kamala for president, but they vote me for Congress.
Well, and it's such a weird thing where I understand in certain major cities, it would be nice to have the bicycle infrastructure, but Los Angeles as a whole just doesn't work that way. How many people that live in Glendale work in Glendale? How many people that live in Burbank work in Burbank? Typically, you work in the city, you work, 20 miles across town, and there's a giant mountain in between you and where you work, and a bicycle just doesn't make a lot of sense for so many people.
Precisely, and that's exactly what I said. I wish my place of residence and my place of work were separated by a leisurely 20-minute bicycle ride. But the fact of the matter is it's not. And they say, oh, this is all about equity because people who are low income may not be able to afford cars, and they need to take public transit and bikes. And then my question is, okay, fine. Let's say somebody who's cleaning homes, let's say a gardener who has to lug his lawnmower and his leaf blower, right? He's not going to be doing that on a bicycle. He's low income. He needs his car. He needs to park his car in front of his house. So this is a very romanticized version of Europe that these people have, and they feel that they need to shove their dream down our gullets.
Well, and I, for one, anyone that wants to advocate for this on such a level, whether it's the people like Laura Freeman who want the bike lanes everywhere, or the Metro Board that is turning, major thoroughfares like on Olive and Burbank to bus-only lanes, you know what? I'll buy into it when you buy into it. I'd like to see these people actually riding their bikes, actually using the public transit, but even the people making these decisions don't actually do it.
Precisely. And listen, I would love to ride public transit. I would love it if my hour-long commute was spent reading and catching up on the medical literature rather than having to sit through traffic. But the fact of the matter remains that here in Los Angeles County, you have a better than average chance of getting stabbed and killed on public transit because public transit resembles more so a mobile mental hospital rather than public transit. And again, public safety, top of mind for me. That is why I'm running. And you can't achieve any of these dreams that you want to do because in Hollywood Boulevard, the bike lanes are actually now being encroached upon by sidewalk tent cities. You have, again, your public transit that is a mobile mental hospital. So we need to, first and foremost, address this homelessness crisis with the mental health issue, not simply a housing issue. And then I think the other pieces will logically fall into place. I think people want to use public transit, don't want to drive, don't want the hassle of traffic. And if you gave them a transit system that was free of homeless people, I think they would start using it more.
Oh, I totally agree. If there was a feasible way for me to get from the West San Fernando Valley to Culver City without driving on the 405 every day and pulling my hair out, I would take it. I would use it. But currently, there is no infrastructure to get from the valley to the west side that makes any sense to anybody. And public safety, I have specifically seen fights on those trains, on those platforms. I have seen some scary stuff on there in person, and I could never go back until I see a noticeable change. And we've seen it's only gotten worse. And to your point about public safety, another thing that we're starting to see is the more this system is built out, any city that happens to be the end of the line for any of these trains, all of a sudden, they're getting a massive crime problem. Last week, we were just talking about a Target in downtown Azusa that is seeing over 10 shoplifting reports a day because right now that's where the Gold Line ends.
Yeah, and outside of crime, I think the fares will soon be unaffordable because all of these public transit modalities that they have, they're saying all electric, all electric, all electric. We here in California are paying 260% more for electricity than a neighboring state like Nevada, where the film industry is moving, for example. So even when they're trying to build this dream of public transit, if your electricity rates, because of your energy policies, are sky high, those are necessarily going to be passed on to the riders, or else the entire thing is going to go bankrupt. So on multiple different levels, they have mismanaged the policies, and their dreams that they're trying to realize will never get realized.
We're talking to Dr. Alex Balekian. He is running for Congress in District 30 in California. That is parts of Glendale, Burbank, and West Hollywood. That is currently Adam Schiff's district. Dr. Balekian, public safety is top of mind for so many people. The biggest issues on the ballot locally are Prop 36 and George Gascon. We talked to you last time about how you feel about George Gascon. Mm-hmm. Do we know how your opponent, Laura Friedman, weighs in on the current district attorney?
Yes, Laura Friedman supports the reelection of George Gascon. She has said that on camera. I invite listeners to go to the website georgeandlaura.com and hear it in her own words. But back in 2020, she retracted her endorsement of Jackie Lacey during the George Floyd protests. She has noticeably not endorsed Nathan Hawkman in here, and she dances around her words. She needs to gin up her base, her Democratic Socialists of America who want restorative justice, who want, criminal justice reform and equity. And so she does support him because her base dictates that he does so, but she's being very creative in her wordsmithing, saying, I didn't endorse George Gascon. Well, she has said on camera that she supports him, and she said that loud and clear.
I listened to an assembly hearing from Tina McKinnon that invited George Gascon up to explain restorative justice and why we should expand the policies he's doing in LA County statewide. And I still don't really understand what I heard. From what I can understand, restorative justice means that the perpetrator and the victim get into a room together and have some group therapy and hug it out.
I mean, if you want true restorative justice, you'll go to places like Norway, where the schools resemble more so the prisons resemble more so trade schools or universities. So from day one, they are trying to restore these criminals' ability to re-enter society as productive members. And so they want to teach them a skill, some sort of job skill. And that, to me, is true restorative justice, where on day one you say, okay, in the next 5 years, we need to make you a productive member of society so that you respect social mores, you command respect for yourself, and you actually have a creative talent that gives you pride and prevents you from recidivism. And if that is what we aim for, I am more than happy to support that. But short of doing that, I think restorative justice has simply become carte blanche for petty criminals to become rampant violent criminals.
You know what's so interesting about what you talk about is this is an issue where Gavin Newsom kind of talks on both sides of his mouth, because the model that you're talking about, Gavin Newsom touts that that's what he's trying to do to San Quentin. And there are some state prisons where they are really trying to talk about rehabilitation, setting people up for success, getting them the real job skills. But on the other end, what we see from Gavin or people like George Gascon is, well, no, we don't want to do that. We want to not send people to prison whatsoever. We don't want to improve the prison experience. We want them out of there completely, which leads to a no consequences life that we're seeing right now.
It's, again, on paper, it sounds really nice to say that you're going to reform the justice system and that you're going to give these prisoners marketable skills and self-respect when they leave. At the end of the day, let's all be clear. Gavin Newsom is all about Gavin Newsom. He's not about restorative justice. He's all about what gets him elected to higher office. But this is also a problem with what we do, is where we say we are going to get rid of Plan A, but we do not have Plan B ready to go, ready to implement. You see it with people, the Republicans in Congress, for example, who want to get rid of Obamacare. It's great. There are parts of Obamacare that I dislike. However, we need a viable Plan B to use as a replacement once you get rid of Plan A. And so what Gavin Newsom did was he said, okay, we're going to resentence these individuals, lower their sentences, release them. The problem is he released them not to any place that could handle them, that could support them. So suddenly you had all of these, criminals, these prisoners who were released. They didn't have places to go. They didn't have jobs to go to. So they all ended up overnight homeless. And that just, the homeless population just doubled, tripled overnight.
We're talking to Dr. Alex Balekian, running for Congress. His website, alex4ca30.com. You can see all of his issues there. Now, your background is in medicine. You're a physician. One of the things that the federal government is supposed to, is in their purview is healthcare. What do you think, in your opinion, with your expertise, the federal government could be doing better on when it comes to healthcare?
So I think I actually like what RFK Jr. says, where he says, make America healthy again. A lot of times we are reactive to disease and not necessarily proactive. So there's a lot of stuff that you could do. For example, something that I call a supermarket subsidy, where you can subsidize small farmers, let's say a group of farmers in the San Joaquin Valley. Don't plant those genetically modified soybeans. Don't plant those high income almond crops. Instead, what you all should do is just try to grow non-GMO, organic fruits, vegetables, dairy, etc., everything that you would find in a supermarket, so that you can have healthy foods accessible and affordable to the average American, same as they do in Europe. And I think that way, even though you invest slightly more in those subsidies to those farmers as an incentive, on the back end, when you have fewer people developing obesity, fewer people developing high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, you save on the back end from all of the money that we spend on their medicines. And that's, I think, a unique way that the federal government can incentivize the growing of healthier foods, non-processed foods that on the back end will make us less ill.
I can't tell you how many people I hear about. They go to Europe, they go to Italy, and people that have gluten allergies can eat the wheat in Italy, because whatever we're doing here, we are processing the crap out of the most basic ingredients. And you're right, it is making people sick.
And we're having, we're seeing in the medical literature that you're having increases in gastrointestinal cancers, stomach cancers, colon cancers. And this is not in older people. These are younger people in their 30s and 40s. And this is after there has been a steady decline over the last 10 to 20 years of gastrointestinal cancers. Now you're seeing uptick. Why is that? I think because we are putting all these hyper-processed foods into our system, and it is unfortunately causing premature illness.
Now, obesity is a driver of so many chronic diseases, whether it's blood pressure, whether it's cardiac disease. I'm curious, do you support, obviously preventative measures are very important. Preventative care is very important. Currently, the big popular weight loss drugs, the semaglutides, the Ozempics, those are not covered by insurance. Should they be?
My short answer is I don't think that we should rely on those, because those drugs don't cause you to change your habits. They simply mask your habits and put a Band-Aid on it. And I think what that does is it's going to create an entirely new generation of drugs that we're dependent on. And then we're going to be having to pay for them. So my goal would be to try to make it as natural as possible. And these drugs are quite new. Who knows that within 10 years we won't find that they're suddenly causing pancreatic cancer, for example. So what I would do is my default is to try to go naturally as possible. And if it means eating less, eating more wholesome foods that are not processed, that's what I would rather go to rather than having a blanket approval for this new class of drugs.
I like that answer. Dr. Alex Balekian, he is running for Congress. The website is alex4ca30.com. That's Alex, FORCA30.com. If he's on your ballot, you can give him a look. Dr. Balekian, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck next week.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for calling in. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're talking to some of the candidates that are going to be on your ballot that, you can be voting on them right now. The election ends next Tuesday, and John Phillips and I are going to be broadcasting live with all the results from 7 to 10 p.m. on KABC, KSFO in San Francisco, and even some of it's going to air on KMJ in Fresno. How cool is that? When we come back, we will talk to California State Senator and candidate for supervisor in Orange County, Janet Nguyen. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Our next guest is a state senator in Orange County. She is currently running for Orange County Supervisor in District 1. Janet Nguyen, welcome back to the News Blitz.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me come back.
Senator Nguyen, the last time we talked, you were pushing a couple of bills that were going to help improve the state and county's animal shelter systems. Can we get an update on some of that?
Yes. I wrote 2 bills this year to hold county animal shelters accountable. The first bill, which sets a standard for veterinarians and the medical records of pets. So, for example, Randy, when we go to the hospital, when we go into the ER from morning to evening, they have a medical record of us. Whether, a doctor saw us, if we got medication, if we got testings or whatever. That's created, and then the doctor in the evening will see all that. Well, currently, shelters don't have that for animals. So we want to make sure that now they have a medical record on these animals in the when they're intake. So there's no guidelines. So now if a dog comes in with an injury and bleeds to death in a cage, we want to make sure that now they will have a medical record on what happened. So, in the past, an incident did occur in Orange County that a dog did come in after a car accident and bleed to death in like a few days, and no one had a record of what happened to the animal. If the veterinarian has seen him, if there was any medication, nobody knows. So now, the new law on January 1st, 2025 will require that vets have to document intake exams, injuries, pain relief, or medication, and if necessary, also the reason if they can euthanize the animal. It overwhelmingly passed the Senate and the Assembly, and it was signed by the governor. And so, I've always said this: animals don't have a voice, so we have to be their voice. And I'm so happy that I was able to be their voice.
Well, congratulations! Look like you got a bipartisan win on that one.
Yes.
Now, how about the other one that you authored, SB 1459?
Well, my second bill, it requires animal shelters or county shelter to list monthly data like intakes, adoption, deaths, and euthanization numbers. This isn't a long list, and the public has a right to know how their tax dollars are being spent at these shelters and how are these shelters protecting or not protecting these animals as they're coming in. Cities and counties around the nation are doing this. Dallas, for example, has a list of about 50 items they post online daily. Counties have this data, and it should be a burden. However, some of them fought the counties, fought the transparency, saying that it would cost staff time and it would be too expensive for them to have to abide, by the new law. So, we need to know, quite frankly, how many animals are being euthanized monthly. We need to know how many animals a shelter is taking in and how many are leaving the shelters. Are they being adopted? I've seen so many conflicting numbers in one shelter that is so unacceptable. Transparent will force the shelter to do better. The bill did unanimously pass the Senate. It was ready to pass the Assembly, but when it was pulled and sent to the governor's finance department, and then it died there.
Oh, is this another, we just can't afford it, even though it's a good idea?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Was this another, well, this is a good idea, but we just can't afford it, so think about it another time?
Pretty much. The bill, required some type of spending. So if you're not a part of the supermajority party, which I'm not, most of our bills go to the finance department and it dies there. It had great bipartisan support for both bills. And I won't give up on website reporting issues. So it's important, and it will be reintroduced. I will make sure that it will be reintroduced until it passes.
We need more, especially in these kinds of systems, more transparency is always a good idea. More reporting is always a good idea. More data is always a good idea. And we should know, the public should be aware if there is a shelter system that is not meeting standards.
Exactly. I mean, just having data it helps us know, is there an anomaly why, say, Orange County or LA County or San Diego is having an influx of a certain type of animal coming in? What are they doing with it? Can other shelters help? If we find out, say, Orange County shelters or LA shelter is 20% at capacity, so maybe they can help with other shelters. There's so many things we can do with this data, and so it's unfortunate that some of these counties don't want to be transparent. They have the data; it's there. And we also want to know the euthanization rate of a county shelter. We want to know, why is it 100% euthanization rate increase? Why is it not? It helps us to get good policy in place to protect these animals.
We're speaking to California State Senator Janet Nguyen. Now, Senator Nguyen, you are currently running for Orange County Supervisor in the 1st District. That seat is vacant. In fact, it's literally vacant right now after the current supervisor, Andrew Doe, resigned after pleading guilty to a public corruption bribery scandal. If you get elected as supervisor, what can we do to make sure things like this don't happen again, where a supervisor is able to take COVID money that was supposed to go to needy families and forward it to a charity that was run by his daughter and then got kickbacks back to him?
Yeah, we are going to start with auditing. I'm going to audit every county department, all the money that was spent by the county during COVID. We need to know who these vendors were. Was it as a no-bid contract? And if so, why? And any of these contractors, anybody who's taken money from Orange County, we want to make sure that you meet the requirement and that you did provide a service. If not, we're coming after you and we're going to ask for that money back. We're going to put in policy at the county to making sure this doesn't happen again. So, we've actually passed several bills this year and signed by the governor to making sure Orange County cannot all the discretionary fundings will have to be now publicly advertised, and it has to be voted on by a majority of the Board of Supervisors. Previously, it wasn't. There's so many things that can be put in place, and this would not happen again under my watch.
Yeah, the fact that what was going on went on for so long before, I guess the feds were onto him for a while. But I do like the fact that I didn't realize that the rest of the board didn't even have to know what was going on. He could unilaterally put that contract into his chosen charity.
Yep. It's really unfortunate. This will go down as, this is the largest corruption scandal in Orange County history, probably 50 years now. And we want that money back. We need to protect the taxpayers of Orange County. Quite frankly, as you mentioned, the money was supposed to go into meals for seniors during COVID, and yet he squandered it and only provided 15% of the funding of over $10 million. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you're running on an anti-corruption platform. The county supervisors, whether it's Orange County or Los Angeles County or some of the other big population counties, they handle budgets that are larger than some states, and there has got to be more guardrails for things like this to just not happen again.
Absolutely. Orange County is the sixth largest county budget in the nation. They are at $9.5 billion budget. With approximate 3.1 million people in Orange County, this should not happen, and it will not happen again. If we need more state laws, I would go to Sacramento and make sure we have more state laws. But we need to guard the taxpayers' money and protect them. Several things I want to do also, Randy, is we need to end no-bid contracts. There needs to be a reason why there are so many no-bid contracts going on. We need to make sure that anybody who does have a contract with the county, they qualify, and we also need to make sure that it's deliverables, that they actually deliver the services that they said they were going to do so. We need a lot of internal auditing within the county itself as well. There's so many things that's going to happen. I'm excited. I hope that, the voters in Orange County would send me to the Board of Soups, because I'm going to work on day one to making sure we root out corruption in Orange County.
State Senator Janet Nguyen, she's currently running for Supervisor District 1 in Orange County. You can go to her website, janet4supervisor.com. That's janet4supervisor.com. State Senator Nguyen, thanks so much for coming on with us, and good luck next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. You just heard it right there. John Phillips and I are going to be broadcasting live on election night, 7 to 10 p.m. So John Phillips Show, noon to 3, News Blitz 5 to 6. Live election coverage statewide from 7 to 10 p.m. We'll be live on KABC and our sister station, KSFO in San Francisco. And some of it's also going to get broadcast on KMJ in Fresno. How cool is that? Not as cool as this. 790 KABC welcomes Stephanie Mills to the Saban Theater on November 8th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Saban at the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. My thanks to Janet Nguyen and Alex Balekian for joining the show as we get so close to the very end. I'm so ready for all of it to be over. Our producer Art during the break was telling me he got 5 political text messages just during this show. That is a lot. Today it's only been 1. But it has gotten out of control with the texting. And even when you tell them to stop, they just call you from a different number. The phone calls, the mailers. I will say, I put in my ballot 2 weeks ago, and the mailers have mostly stopped, except for school board. I don't know what it is, but the school board race, I already voted in it. Why do you keep sending me mailers? Although it's the guy I didn't vote for that keeps sending me the mailers. But I'm so ready for it all to be over. I don't understand the direct mail thing. I really don't. As ineffective as the text messages are, as ineffective as the phone calls are, I do not understand the effectiveness at all of the mailers, because 99.99999% of them get thrown right in the trash without anybody ever reading them. That every local campaign, if they have even a little bit of money, what do they spend it on? Direct mail. Do not understand it whatsoever. You know, I was a little worried starting the show today because yesterday I did something stupid. Well, I wouldn't say I did something stupid, but something happened that I didn't realize was going to still affect me to today. But Sunday I do a big meal prep. I had some leftover rice from sushi night, so I ended up making some fried rice. I was tasting it while I was putting it in the containers. And even though I am a very experienced eater, I'm a very experienced chewer, somehow, and I don't know how, I bit my tongue so hard eating this fried rice. I don't know what happened to me. Luckily, I didn't drop blood, but my tongue has been especially swollen. And up until about this morning, in fact, you can almost hear it now. I'm almost lisping just a little bit because my tongue is so thick and swollen from this bite. So it's going to be okay. But my goodness, has it been? I woke up this morning and, anytime you have any kind of injury, you wake up the next morning and it's going to be that much more painful. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk, but I fought through it. It's all going to be okay. And I had the fried rice for lunch and it was pretty good. I couldn't get it crispy, but that's another story for another day. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Not just today, but Friday and tomorrow, and all of the people out there that have the choice of the World Series with the Dodgers in it and listening to this radio show. I mean, it's one thing when I'm just going up against Conway, but I'm going up against the World Series and Conway. And I really appreciate you tuning in and being a part of this show and calling in when we ask for phone calls and emailing when you ask for that. It really means a lot that this show is getting a lot of response. This show is getting a lot of calls and having just the time of my life doing it. Now, you might not get a chance to listen to every single show because you have a life. Maybe you have a schedule. I want to encourage everybody listening. You should follow the podcast. That way, if you ever get to a point where you have nothing to listen to because none of your favorite shows are on or you're in a place that doesn't have good radio reception, you got to get the podcast of this show. Go to kabc.com/newsblitz. That's one way. You can go to the Apple Podcast app and search for the KABC News Blitz. It'll pop up right there. You'll see every single episode. And I believe we're also on Spotify. If I look at the analytics for this show, it does show that some people get it from Spotify. I don't have Spotify. I do YouTube Music, but we're also on YouTube. In fact, those ones pop up. And what's great about those is not only is it the podcast of this show, but it's accompanied by a still picture of me from 50 pounds heavier ago. Really got to get new pictures. It's just ridiculous. But I want to thank everyone again for listening. As I said, make sure you tune in election night. Here, 790 KBC, you can have the TV on in the background, but turn the volume off. You don't need to hear those people pontificating because they're not going to talk about the local election results the way we are. John Phillips and I are going to be here live Tuesday, November 5th from 7 to 10 p.m. locally on KABC, but broadcast statewide with our partner KSFO in San Francisco, and we're even going to air on KMJ in Fresno. How cool is that? See you tomorrow for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.